saying that they like my style. Wanna know how I do it? I smile. While you were out there saying hey, hi, hello, I was getting dressed up in shades of yellow.
Hello, welcome to the Lovely Job podcast. I'm Leah Spicer-Pownall. I'm the marketing manager of Miss Bush, and this is a very special episode of the podcast because we have our first guest.
I'm Emma Marshall. I am the MD of Miss Bush, as you probably know, and it is my very great pleasure. I'm kind of somewhat nervous about having a guest because I think we've said before that what we record is Leah and I talking like we would just normally chat to each other, but we just press record. So now we've got to work out if we've got any interviewing skills. But I'm really pleased to introduce my very first guest is Marion Mathews, someone that I've known for a very long time, since 2007, when she became our agent for Jesus Peiro. So we go back a long way. I think I probably had dark brown hair or something then still. And just to give you a little outline of what Marion has done in her past, she's something of a career polymath. Really has been done so many interesting jobs. She was crew for a Japanese airline. She speaks Japanese. She was a teacher. I think she said her coolest job was managing a festival. Okay. And then she threw away the rock and roll lifestyle to become a bridal shop owner in Ireland. And then balanced that with being an agent, and eventually sold her bridal shop and became an agent full time. She also balances this with being a mother to two boys, and is her partner Paddy is also had a very interesting career in tourism with Ireland. So that was really fascinating hearing about that, especially during the pandemic. So Marion and I have also spent a lot of time just gassing, a lot of time drinking wine. So I feel very comfortable interviewing her, and I hope it feels quite Leah-like as opposed to too scary for Marion as well.
Okay, and should we let Marion say hello? Introduce herself.
Hello, Emma and Leah. Lovely to be here. I've been listening to every episode of the podcast since the start, so I feel very honoured to be the first guest. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it could be a mixed blessing, to be honest.
It's nice to have somebody that we already know as the first guest. It's not quite so scary.
For you, maybe.
Well, I mean, I think that the thing is, so our audience so far seems to be a mixture of brides to be, existing brides, the trade, and people that we know through the trade, and then random elderly relatives. So for the benefit of all these people, Marion, can you explain who you work for, what you do, and what exactly an agent is?
Sure. Okay. So I am an independent agent, which means I have my own business, but I only have one customer, and that customer is Jesus Peiro. So I'm the agent for Jesus Peiro in the UK and Ireland. So that means that all sales for Jesus Peiro dresses in the territory of the UK and Ireland come via my business, essentially. And then I am responsible for those markets, for sales, for customer service, for logistics, for everything, really. So yeah, I'm essentially a middleman. And people often ask what is an agent, or maybe confuse it with being a rep. So the difference with being a sales rep and being an agent generally is that a sales rep is normally an employee of the company who works on a salary and commission, but an agent is like an independent business, and they tend to work on commission only. So that's the difference. Yeah.
And I really think that you really earned that commission during Brexit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough. But we got there. It was tough, but we did get there. Yeah.
What did you find the biggest challenge helping clients with the Brexit transition?
Yeah, I suppose it was just, we didn't know until until really close to the end whether there was going to be a trade deal or not. So we had to sort of plan for every outcome. And so the last thing you want in bridal is uncertainty around either pricing or delivery or custom delays. Like you can't, obviously it's a time definite event. You can't have something delayed or held up. And also around the price, because the shops had contracted selling the dresses to the bride at a certain price and didn't have the ability to absorb like all these new charges if they came in. So we were trying to sort of bulletproof against all the different eventualities. And then also there wasn't that much information available in terms of what paperwork would be needed in advance. So we were trying to do all this prep in advance, but really until the very end, we didn't know if there was going to be a trade deal. And then the first few weeks were a little bit chaotic as well in terms of what we needed to provide, the new rules, the new shipping things. So I was just trying to keep all the customers in the loop, keep communicating, and just not lose the confidence. You didn't want people to drop us because it was too stressful to work with something that wasn't made in the UK. But I mean, the thing that ended up being a really positive for us was because the product is 100% made in Spain, there was no duty. So that was like massive, because quite a lot of companies, even if they were based in Europe, if the product was made overseas, they had to then apply duty. So yeah, but we got through it. And I feel like now, okay, it's not as easy as before, especially when it comes to loaning samples and things, but we manage it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was some challenge to work out the FedEx kind of arrangements, wasn't it? And the and the deferred VAT and just so many complex things with very little information. And I mean, I don't really think it's a huge secret. I've never made it a secret that I was a Remainer, so never wanted to be put in this position in the first place. But it really has just made business more difficult.
Exactly.
There hasn't really been an upside to it, but it was been. I speak on behalf of all Jesus Peiro stockists. I feel like your help was invaluable in getting us across that hurdle as well. Basically,
thanks, Emma. I hope so.
Yeah,
but it wasn't plain sailing, but we got there.
No, absolutely. And then also you were on the back of that. There was COVID, and that presented challenges, didn't it? And you had to help us manage that as well.
Yeah.
What was that like for
Obviously, so many years of building up the relationships we have in the UK and building up, everything. And so conscious of how hard everybody works in their business. So, and I think we all felt quite isolated. So I think I just tried to keep in touch with everyone and, work around all the things in terms of deliveries and deferred weddings, and then this sort of rush when we reopened and had to meet all the new dates and everything. But we got there as well.
But I think that Jesus Peiro and you were in a, because you could offer those very receptive, very, very good turnaround times. Can you talk a little bit about how Jesus Peiro are able to be so responsive to orders? Talk me through that.
Yeah, I suppose there's two things that give us the edge there in terms of maybe other bigger brands or brands that are made overseas. First one is our production is in Spain. So that's the number one. And, it means that we can offer much faster delivery times or rush orders. And the second is that we're not actually a massive company. We're quite small, really. So I think people think we're bigger than we are sometimes. So it's quite a small team. So it means that I can speak to somebody in production, or at least somebody who is in the same building as someone in production, and we can switch things around. We can pull one dress out and slide another one in, or so that's why I think we can do that.
I mean, I know you wouldn't want to encourage everyone to think about working to the fastest possible turnaround times, but I mean, explain to brides how what the fastest turnaround that they could do.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you're also conscious that you do have to factor in shipping, alterations. There is now the possibility occasionally that things do get stuck in customs, so there's all of that. But we can turn a dress around in, 8 weeks from, say, the time the order goes into our system to the time it's packed and ready to leave. And then there's, shipping, alterations, all of that sort of thing needs to get added on. But as you said, if every single order was for 8 weeks, we couldn't do that. We ask people to only ask for that if they really need it, because somebody's in a fix or somebody's in trouble. And then we do offer a rush service, which has an additional charge. Because that means we have to juggle things around and there's a cost to that, you know, or maybe somebody has to work overtime because so that we can do it. So that's when it's a shorter time frame than that.
Yeah, and we've seen that like as quick as 3 weeks on delivery, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, it is really good. Yeah.
And
all kinds of things happen, as you know, for you know, as to why people have to have dressed that quickly. Everything from pregnancies to illness to changing your mind to weight loss or gain, everything. Yeah.
Would you what do you think would be like though? Because I always make a very strong case for because of the Spanish production, that I would say that the Jesus Peiro production is quite ethical and very transparent. How do you understand it? I mean, obviously you've been to their production facilities a lot.
Yeah, I think it's essentially slow fashion. It's not mass produced. So what you see a lot in the bridal industry, and one of the reasons why sometimes there can be quite big lead times, is that, you know, the bigger companies will wait until they have 10 orders for X dress in a size 10 and then cut them all together. But every Jesus Peiro dress is always cut individually, one by one, for each individual bride. So when you see that at work, like, it's very much slow fashion. It's very much, you know, really sort of technical, experienced people that have been with the company for a long time. And we don't have loads and loads of waste. We don't have loads and loads of samples that are made that are just like, you know, it's like, you know, Emma, when you need to borrow a sample, another shop might have it in another country and we're pulling that back to send it to, you know. So so in terms of how ethical it can be, I think it's pretty ethical when you compare it to other designers. And we are very transparent, yes, in terms of where we source things, who works for us, who makes the clothes.
No, I love that. I mean, I think
we do have, we're the only Spanish brand that has the Made in Spain accreditation mark, you know, that little symbol that's on a postcard in the box. That's also really hard to get. That meant that somebody came to the company and spent quite a long time checking everything, like checking how the staff are treated, checking our policy around sourcing, checking how they're made. And so it's not just a certification to say they're made in Spain, it's also a certification to say they're made ethically.
Yeah, I always make a really big deal about that in with clients, because I think it's so important to me. And I think that I would say that people are not shopping necessarily ethically first. I think people really want to look nice first. But I do think that I feel that people are then very pleased to be able to support something that is that transparent and that provenance is so clear as well. So I do think we love that. It's one of the reasons why I think they do so well with us as well. So just quickly talk through, I know this is quite technical and again, something I'm geekily obsessed with, the digital pattern cutting service that they offer and the design changes that a bride can have.
Yeah, sure. So one of our points of difference is that we do use digital pattern cutting. So there's sort of it's a step process. So, you know, you guys take the order, it gets sent to the administration department to enter it. And then that is like on a shared computer with the pattern makers. So the pattern makers are the ones who actually print the pattern and input the changes to the software. So it does mean that we can give like really accurate measurements. So if you're doing a made to measure, the software program will, you know, the measurements will be input on that, and then the pattern will be printed exactly in those measurements. So people get a little bit scared by that because there's no ease. There's no, like, for another designer, you might measure and the bride might be a little bit over on the waist or something, and you'll go, oh, I know it'll be fine, there's enough ease. But with ours, there isn't. So that's good in the sense that you can get a better fit. But people get nervous that they'll measure too tight, or, you know, the dress will be too tight. Yeah. So, but it means, we can shorten bodices, we can lengthen bodices, we can, you know, raise a neckline, modify size for different body shapes. So it's really good. It doesn't mean brides don't need alterations, I have to say, because I think it's really important to manage the expectation around that, because we don't have every single measurement. and obviously bodies have loads of different parts to them, and you're only measuring different points. So generally they do still need alterations, but maybe just not quite so much. Yeah. Oh, I think Emma, sometimes you manage to get it spot on, do you?
Yeah, that's a lot of years of trial and error though.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and I think that you do need to be quite confident around what you're doing. And I've always
Yeah.
briefed my team to say that we take full responsibility for this. So if there's anything wrong, we don't. Yeah, we were like, okay, hands up. Maybe I didn't get that right, but it is quite. Yeah, you're right. Bodies are not. I always equate it a bit to like if you had to wrap up a book for Christmas. That's quite nice and easy. But actually, we're in the constant kind of state of wrapping up an awkward abstract vase
Yeah.
in human
Yeah.
form.
Yeah.
So it is,
Basically.
there is a little
Yeah.
bit of kind of, you've got to be creative and practical and technical. There's quite a lot that goes on in there. So
Yeah.
what do you think as an agent though? Obviously we understand the technical side of things. Do you feel like you have much input with the team on design decisions or the creativity, or talk me through how the creativity works, JP?
I'm not involved in design, but the design team really do listen and want feedback from me and my customers about our market, because Jesus Peiro operates in so many different markets around the world, and every market is different. And also, it's really important to the design team to get feedback on about what real brides want and think, and things that have worked well on real brides and things that haven't worked well and things that are missing from the collection. So I think they very much listen to what we say. But then obviously they've got to have creative freedom as well. So the collection probably ends up being a mixture of practical decisions and creativity. But I think we're quite unique in that we do have a full-time design team of 3 that work year round. And there's not many bridal companies that have 3 full-time designers, especially of our size. So I think that creativity is really, really important and sort of intrinsic. We are like a true designer brand who doesn't just sort of copy or yeah.
Yes, there's been quite a lot of copies of Jesus Peiro stuff recently. I'm going to
Yeah.
say it again, Ellis, get your own designers. Stop just making versions of Jesus Peiro dresses. Marion probably can't say that, but I can. And maybe someone from Ellis would like to DM me and get me to apologise next week about it. But really, I do. I mean, I've loved that kind of design that's at the core of the company. I always have really liked that. And what do you think there's a particular type of Jesus Peiro dress that is perfect for the British and Irish bride?
Yeah, I mean, in our markets, what we really do well with is that sort of very core, clean lines, almost architectural, plain fabrics or textured plain fabrics, and that is always every season represents probably the best sellers for my market, and that's not always the same in other markets. And for example, I know in France they go for much softer dresses, more floaty, but the collection's quite broad, so we do have other things that sell and that sell well. It's just that's always the core within my markets of what's selling. Yeah. And I
So
think that's what we're known for. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've my narrative is definitely around that, and I think it does really well. Particularly, I always say to my clients as well, because I think that they're sort of Barcelona feels a bit London on sea, and so I feel that it's got that slightly metropolitan liberal feel about it. So I think it
Yeah.
works well in those kind of cities and those kind of stores.
Yeah, definitely. I think we do that city bride look really well. Not to say we've loads of obviously brides outside of that realm, but yeah, I think you can feel the Barcelona in the collection, or maybe that's just me feeling that, but I think you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you can definitely.
Yeah.
And so obviously with this kind of whole different regional tastes and variations, obviously you had a bridal shop in
Yes.
Mullingar, which
Yes.
is in the Midlands in
Yeah, it's
Ireland.
in the middle of Ireland. Yeah.
So
About an hour from Dublin.
and so so I'm going to ask you a bit about bridal retail, because I do obviously know that some retailers, probably competitors, listen to this, probably with a
Yeah.
little voodoo doll in the background stabbing me or something. I don't know. So basically, what made you get a bridal shop and then stay with bridal but not continue in retail? Basically, just talk me through a little bit of your kind of
Yeah.
decisions about that.
So for me, it wasn't, I know quite a lot of people go into it from a fashion background or because they love the idea of like bridal fashion and all of that. For me, it was very much a business decision. I was actively looking to open a business in what is my hometown. I had lived away for quite a long time, for like 13 years, and I just got married, and we wanted to move closer to one of our families because we were living quite far away from both, and we decided on Mulgar because at the time my husband needed to be quite central and was doing some work in Dublin and things, and also yeah, it just made sense. We just decided to move back there. But I had spent a lot of time working in different jobs, and the one thing I did know was I wanted to work for myself. I was ready to run my own thing. So I was actively looking for business ideas, and I sort of tested on paper lots of different things. And then I just saw this map because I had just gotten married myself. There was very few bridal shops in the Midlands. And also there was lots of brands you couldn't get in Ireland. So that was sort of, I did like a business plan and sort of tested a lot of the figures, and I thought there was a business there. So that's why I opened it. It was very much a business decision. Yeah.
And you opened at that real period of extreme economic growth in Ireland, didn't you, as well?
Yes.
So
yeah, it was the Celtic Tiger. Yeah, which is where Irish people had money for the first time and sort of went a bit mental with it, to be honest. So it was quite a good time to open a high-end bridal shop.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when we've talked about this, and you were like selling like £12,000 dresses 20 years ago, I'm like,
in a small town in the Midlands, I know. But like most of my brides were coming from Dublin, but still, yeah, it was mad when you think about it. Yeah. But it was good. I was selling some really fabulous things, but that probably wouldn't sell now, so yeah.
Marion,
but I did open with Jesus Peiro, yeah.
Did you stock Jesus Peiro in your shop? That's what I was going to ask you. Did you have them in your shop?
Yes, I did. Yeah, so... Yeah, I was actually the first English-speaking stockist they ever had. At that stage, they were really just, in Spain, Italy, Germany, places like that. They didn't have any stockists in the UK and Ireland. I think we were in Spain on holidays, and I bought a bridal magazine because I was doing some research, and there was an ad in it, and I looked them up, and I emailed them. And Oscar, who's the commercial director, phoned me, and I went to Barcelona to have a look at them. Yeah, so that was how. So when I opened, they were one of the brands I had, and they were the best-selling brand from day one. And my shop, which is still there now, I sold it 11 years ago. I think it's still their best-selling brand. So they're still one of our key stockists, which is really nice. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, so.
I think you can take credit, really, for bringing Jesus Peiro to the UK and Ireland.
Well, Emma sort of independently started stocking them then before I became the agent. So I think she has to definitely take a huge chunk of the credit as well. So
I think Oscar does. Oscar turned up at our door on a drop-in. He didn't arrange, didn't pre-arrange. And I had literally just got my decree nisi, just divorcing from my first husband, and basically he turned up downstairs at the old shop, and somebody went, "There's a handsome Spanish man downstairs asking for you." So I basically was like, okay, let him in then, I guess. So yeah. I don't think that was a super, that definitely didn't have Marion's level of research involved in it. Basically, I think he spoke to someone and said, or someone said to him, well, Miss Bush is probably the best shop in the country. You should go and see them or something. So
I think so.
He basically showed up like a traveling salesman, basically like a cop and stuff. And I was like, then he's like, "Oh, come to Barcelona." I was like, "All right." Honestly, there wasn't any wasn't Marion levels of thought and research that went into that. That was basically So handsome Spanish man turns up.
In terms of why I sold it. So then I started working as the agent about a year or maybe 2 years after I opened the shop. So I had both. I had like the shop and the agency, and the Celtic Tiger crashed. So it totally changed the business model, and we actually moved to much bigger premises and started selling more mid-price, I would say. So Jesus Peiro went from one of our least expensive brands to one of our most expensive, but higher volume. Life was kind of nuts, to be honest, because Paddy was commuting to Dublin on the early train. He was gone from like 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. We had 2 young kids. I was running the shop, I was running the agency, and everything was a bit mental. So something had to give, and I was like, well, maybe I'll try selling the shop. But it's really hard to sell a bridal shop because you can't really advertise it, because then you lose the confidence of the brides. I mean, some people manage to do that, but I felt like if you put it out there that you were selling it, that was it. The business was gone because brides wouldn't feel confident to order from you. So I put in through my accountant, I put an anonymous ad in like a business newspaper, and that's how I managed to sell it. I sold it to another bridal shop. Yeah.
I think
So
it's, I do think that many bridal retailers would be at many times be so jealous of that. Just to be like, because it's
yeah,
that,
I think it was good for me and it was good for them. So yeah, it worked at the time. Yeah.
yeah,
They,
it's very
yeah.
hard to, I would say it's extremely hard to value a bridal shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and it is, I mean, I know that you work as kind of like a friend and a confidant to quite a lot of bridal shop owners. Now, I mean, what's the
Yeah.
biggest lesson that you learned in retail that you try and help people with? Is there something that is a sort of need to know that people don't know?
Well, I think it's very emotionally stressful, especially in the early years, because you're dealing with people at quite a vulnerable time in their life. And like if people get upset with anything, and it mightn't even be about the dress, but they might perceive it as, it's quite stressful. It's quite a lot of responsibility and it can feel really isolating. So you have to try and keep level headed. And it's really nice to have people to talk to as well and bounce things off because yeah, it's bizarre the thing. Obviously, like 90% of things just go to plan and everybody's happy and everything. But sometimes you're dealing with different relationships between mums and daughters, which I think you've touched on before. People get very self-conscious at the idea of everybody looking at them and can get quite nervous, and that can come across in appointments and things. And I definitely took all that on at the start and I had to learn to be objective and stay sort of in control and calm. So I think that's one of the things you have to learn when you start working in bridal first, to
Mm.
be in control. Because the brides actually need you to be in control
Mm.
and the person that's knows what they're doing and is responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I've read a few things in the trade press once where like where people have talked about customer service or the customer service they offer to their
Mm,
brides. And I think that's not service, that's masochism. Like there is no boundary or borders or control. Do you know what I mean? You're just doing
mm.
whatever the client wants for you at any time of the day or night. And that isn't the same as customer service.
No,
That
it's not.
is,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you need to tell brides if they're asking you to make an alteration that's not going to work, or they quite often I don't know if this is still a thing, Emma, but I remember brides quite often wanted dresses to be taken in a little bit too tight, because they wanted like a really fit
Mm.
silhouette maybe or something, when it was like probably a stage where fishtails were really popular. Like it's absolutely your responsibility to say no, that's the wrong thing. If you sit down, that could rip. It's gonna crease. You have to be in control. And I think brides respond when you are confident and telling them that this is from your experience what will work. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We've got something at the moment where there's a couple of people recently have wanted their dresses left long. And I'm like, you're going to fall over.
like too long. Okay. Yeah.
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 You literally,
Yeah.
like, it
I think
looks
that
so
can sometimes.
romantic on the floor. And it's
Yeah.
like, you won't look so romantic when you're on the floor,
Yeah.
though. That won't. Well, that's not a look.
Yeah. 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 Or
And
the
so,
thing of like I know you touched on it last week, like mums or sisters not listening to what the bride is saying or what the bride wants, things like that. Again, it's important in a way, they're looking to you to be the expert, to be the person who knows, who's
mm.
objective, who's
And
in control.
do
Yeah.
you find yourself taking that sort of business but maternal kind of relationship into how you work with the bridal retail clients you have now as well? Do you find that
I
you're
think
having
so.
to
I think it
be,
depends on the shop. But definitely when it's a new shop, I always feel quite maternal probably towards them, because you want them to succeed, and you if I can in some way, sometimes people just ring me up and go, do you mind if I just bounce this off you because you know about it, and I don't know if I'm making the right decision. I quite like it when people do that, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, I
Because
think I've done that. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like, because I understand both sides, if I can be an objective person who can go, I think you're doing the right thing there, or I think you need to, yeah. I don't know if I'm always right, but yeah, at least sometimes it can be lonely running a business. It's nice to have someone to bounce things off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just need to be able to kind of like get a perspective on it, don't you? I mean, I think I've done that
Mm,
with you for ages, you know, like either talking about clients or talking about other suppliers or something like that, or competitors.
mm.
You're like, is it
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what would you, I mean, like talking about like, if so obviously there will be brides listening to this, will have got a real good understanding now, a little bit or more of an understanding about how Jesus Peiro operates. I mean, what would
Mm.
you say like to brides about actually what would be really a good takeaway piece of advice from you, either if they wanted to be a Jesus Peiro bride or just general shopping? Do you know what I mean? What's your sense of that?
I think what's really stressful now for brides, and this wasn't a thing when I had the shop because I sold it 11 years ago, is just the amount of images they consume both before and after they make the decision. It must be really hard to have the conviction to make that final decision, and that must be really stressful. So I think if you could, when you've made the decision, it must be hard to have the clarity of thought of what you want. Um, and I think people probably, like I get quite a lot where an order has gone in and then a week or two later, the shop will contact me and go, oh, the bride thinks she might have changed her mind. Can you put that order on hold? And it's like they forget how they felt in the dress when they were in it. And they start looking at all the images again. And really, the only thing you can really judge is when you are standing in the dress in the shop and how you feel about how you look. And then try and block all the other stuff out. So that's probably the number one. And then the second thing I would say is don't sweat the small stuff. Like it is actually about the marriage, not about the wedding. Like people can get very hung up on small things and almost drive themselves into a stress ball. But nothing's
Mm.
going to be perfect. Something's going to go wrong, you know. So you just have to roll with it then at a certain point, I think.
Yeah,
Like
and I
it's kind of
think,
the shop's responsibility to make sure the dress is right.
but
And
yeah,
then yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think again, it's the image overload, isn't it, of perfect weddings, and like particularly
Mm,
with influencers and
yeah.
celebrities, not just the one perfect wedding, but about three or four
Yeah.
different versions of that wedding. There's a
There's
lot
so
to
much
it.
pressure on brides now. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I know that
Yeah.
is definitely. Um, so we are obviously in Barcelona. We're in the same hotel, but in
Yes.
different rooms.
Yeah.
And we both saw the preview collection from Jesus Peiro
Yes.
yesterday. Now, we're not allowed to share pictures.
2026
I know.
preview.
It's
Yeah.
literally mad. So that would be then that would be like you're like 20 years. No, like you'll be your career now with Jesus Peiro, one way or another, is now about 20 plus
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it was around this time that I came to Barcelona for the first time to look at the collection. Yeah.
I think, yeah,
20 years ago. Yeah.
I think I came in maybe 2006 or something like
6 or 7.
that. Just,
Yeah.
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 So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like 18, 19 years. So, okay. So we're not allowed to show any pictures of the dresses yet.
No.
But just tell me like about what you think the takeaways were from the collection, what your favorite dresses were like, any little
Thought it
thoughts
was
you
quite,
can share.
yeah. Oh yeah, and I want to hear your takeaway, one or two sentences as well, because I don't think I asked you that. I thought it was quite fresh, which I was hoping for, because I feel like, yeah, it's like there's a lot of changes in design in the industry right now. So, yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought what I really liked was what I'm really seeing is the value that the shops add in terms of being stylists. And I saw lots of pieces that work together and can be mixed with existing pieces so that there can be real value added from the stylist in the shop. I think that's really important now. Um, I thought there was some nice improvements in internal structure going on that I was really happy with. And yeah, I thought there was some wow pieces as well that I think will look really good in images, and I can imagine even already the real brides looking amazing in some kind of showstopper ones. Yeah,
Hmm.
so that's sort of my takeaway. What was yours, Emma?
Yeah, nobody would be able to draw that, would they? That is like neutrally tempting.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we were talking in the regular podcast that we recorded just before this about trends for next year. So, I mean, obviously there were some trends-led pieces, I think, there.
Hmm.
I don't think it's a secret to anybody that whole scarf around the neck thing is a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
trend. And I think
Yes.
it was really good to see those available at what I thought would be a very like affordable price point as well in
Yeah.
the fabrics that match some of the existing collections. So I think that's where that stylist kind of input
Yeah.
can come from as well. So we can see as a shop how we can take pieces. I could definitely see how I can take pieces from this collection and mix it with our pre-existing stuff, which I always love
Yeah.
about Jesus Peiro, which means that I'm rarely left with dead stock because you can say, oh, that from the new collection is going to go so well with that from that sort of like 2025 collection. And I can see that fabric working well in that dress as well. So yeah, it's really, I thought that was really strong. I was surprised to find myself attracted to a couple of completely lace pieces. And again, I don't think that's giving too much away.
Yeah.
Which, we've always had bits of that in the collection
Yeah.
over the years that have done well. Like 8004, I mean, that was a very good seller, and that had that striped lace, and we did really, really well with that. But with Jesus Peiro, what you always find is a sort of fresh version of that look. It never looks like, the sort of lace fishtails you see of the big sort of like, the sort of the big Israeli, Chinese made or like Ukrainian brands. They do it in a very European way. So I thought that was really interesting for me, being like, so like, just everything plain. And there was also one really beautiful embellished fabric with a matching veil, and I'm not going to give anything more away than that.
Yeah,
But
that was
I
stunning. I
really
have to
loved
say,
that.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I was like, I don't even know if people gonna whether they'll love it or not. But the shape was so good as well. It wasn't just a beautiful fabric. So I really, really loved that. And there was, I think they've been brave and played with some silhouettes as well, which is different. And there's definitely, I could see some inherited characteristics, shall we say, from like things like the 2275 like cape and the like 2507 cape as well. So you see those kind of ideas that have really like got people and they've loved it, and sort of they've extended those ideas on. So I feel this is all going to seem really abstract to people without those very specific references.
Good things are coming might be a good way to sum it up.
Things are coming. So and obviously strictly privately, if I have any brides in the shop, I can obviously show you the pictures that I took there. So I will be able to share it. But what we can't do, and it is sad really, but people are very up for copying stuff. And it's a bit of a scourge of the industry, really. But we have to be a bit private with it, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And just the thing that I just want to do. So we just while we're talking about design the new collection. So can you just quickly explain the three designers that do? Because you said that you've got a design team of three. Because I've always said this is really good as well. So just explain who they are and what they do.
Yeah. So Merche Sagara is the head designer since. So Merche started just the year before I became a stockist, I think. So there is a Jesus. People often think the designer's name is Jesus Peiro. There is a Jesus, but his surname is different. And he is the owner and the MD, but he's not the designer. So the designer is Merche Sagara, and she's the creative director for over 20 years. And she's amazing. She's like such a sort of creative visionary, and also she really listens to customers and really wants feedback as well. And then we have Alberto, who is a younger designer, and he's been there, must be about 7 years now, I'm going to guess, that Alberto's been there. So he's like her first assistant. So some of the designs will be designed by Alberto, or he'll have input into some of Merche's designs. So that's quite good to have that different generation looking at the design, if that makes sense. And then Katerina is the second assistant, and Katerina is really good to have in there. She's the kind of newest member of the team because she was originally production manager. So she has got really good insight into the technical side and that bridge between design and production. So yeah, that's who's on the team right now. And sometimes they have like interns and things from the really prestigious design school in Galicia, but they like to keep fresh ideas coming as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the questions that we had in our main podcast is, why is Barcelona the center of like design excellence for bridal wear? Because obviously there's it feels like it doesn't seem like it features so much on the big couture like London, Paris, Milan, but for bridal it's definitely a sort of mecca, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Any
It is.
thoughts
It's got to be the biggest hub. Yeah.
Why
Well,
that
I
is?
guess historically it's because Pronovius was here, and I don't know if they still are, but they certainly were the biggest bridal brand in the world for a long time. So I guess that bred a whole, a lot of expertise because it was such a big company. And is still such a big company. So yeah, I guess I'm guessing that's why. I've never really thought about it, to be honest. But yeah, there are a lot of bridal companies in Barcelona. So it's got to be about that skill being built up here in the city, I would think. Yeah.
I've also thought that like Inditex, which is the behemoth that owns Zara and all the, as we were walking down Passage de Grazia yesterday, we were like, that's another Inditex one, that's an Inditex company.
We were,
and it's like, so their headquarters is in Galicia as well, isn't it? So,
or is it in no, it's in Barcelona, is it? Or I'm not sure actually. I don't know. But I definitely know some people who work there, and they're in Barcelona, but I know two people who work there.
Just
maybe they've got
production.
The production I'm sure is probably in Galicia. Yeah.
So I say to my clients and the mums,
I'm sure the production is in the Far East, but the sample production is probably...
Oh yeah, Zara, yes, absolutely. Or like Turkey. But what I always say to my mums is like, to mums and daughters particularly, is that I don't think Spain has lost its textiles industry in the same way as the UK did. So there's a skills base there, which I think, and it's just cool. Also, it's just cool.
Yeah, that's just a really nice city to go to as well, which always helps.
She just looks like a cool European woman, doesn't she?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Ditto Alberto, Mr. Very cool. Long hair, very cool.
Okay,
they just have it.
We're at 42 minutes. So
we did well.
Are there any final questions that you'd like to ask Marion before we sign off?
No, we've probably chatted. I'm just thinking like things. It was interesting. Marion said the other day she thought she'd spoken to me a lot recently on the phone, and she realised that she'd actually just been listening to the podcast.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't spoken to you in a couple of weeks, but I felt like I had, and then I just thought about it and I went, So
basically, we because we've chatted so much over the last couple of days, because I'm now at Barcelona because my husband Marshy is not well. So I've just been lurking around her because I'm the only British shop that's out here. We're going to meet up with Shauna from the White Room, which is the Marion's former shop, later on today.
You end up missing Morgan Davis. They were gone by the time you arrived.
She's basically had me beside her, a sort of wife for 48 hours. So again, I feel like I can't actually remember what I've said in person and what I've said, but we've had a great time. We've had amazing Japanese food. We've talked about your upcoming holiday. We've we've put the world to rights. We've discussed our children. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like we've done a lot, basically. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I've been stopping her spend money. So I feel like my job is done. I feel well done. Well, thank you for being our first guest, though. How did it feel?
Thank you for inviting me. Well, I just felt like I was having a chat with you, so hopefully that was good.
I feel like it was probably we were quite good. I think we stayed on topic, and I feel people will find loads more about agents and Jesus Peiro as well. So it's good. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marion, and thank you, Emma. If anyone else would like to be a guest on the podcast, if you've enjoyed listening to this and you'd like to give it a go, then just pop us an email or a DM on Instagram. And we'd love to hear what everyone thinks of it. Okay.
Yes, until next time with another guest. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye from Barcelona. Bye.
Goodbye.
You'd like to know, wouldn't you? You'd like to know